Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. It's the end of impeachment week 1. The public hearings began this week in Washington. Democrats kicked off the spectacle on Wednesday, you'll remember, by trotting out a procession of State Department functionaries. Each explained how deeply upsetting it has been to watch an elected president control America's foreign policy. They hate that. Interestingly, though, none of them said they'd seen the president commit any sort of actual wrongdoing. And it was much the same story today. The star witness was the former ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, who was dismissed from her job earlier this year by the president. Now, keep in mind that Yovanovitch was testifying at an impeachment hearing. So the only question on the table was, and remains, has Donald Trump committed crimes that would justify his removal as president of the United States? And fairly early on, Yovanovitch stated unequivocally that, as far as she knows, he has not.
Do you have any information regarding the President of the United States accepting any bribes?
No.
Do you have any information regarding any criminal activity that the President of the United States has been involved with at all?
No.
Well, there you have it. No. I have no evidence of any kind that the president was involved in criminal activity. That was her answer. And it should have been the last thing that she said today. Everything after that was a waste of our time in a country with so many problems that time wasting is a sin. And yet, Marie Yovanovitch kept going and going and going. By the end, the hearing sounded like a therapy session or an extended meeting with the HR department, the definition of hell. Donald Trump's real offense turned out to be wounding the beautiful soul of a highly sensitive former American ambassador.
So just like that, you had to leave Ukraine as soon as possible?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Terrible, honestly. I mean, after 33 years of service to our country, it was terrible.
How did that make you feel? That's a real question. How did it make you feel? If you had to choose a color to represent your emotional state right now, what color would it be? It went on like this for hours. C-SPAN meets the shrink's office.
Without upsetting you too much, I'd like to show you the excerpts from the call. And the first one, where President Trump says, the former ambassador from the United States, the woman, was bad news, and the people she was dealing with in the Ukraine were bad news. So I just want to let you know. What was your reaction when you heard the President of the United States refer to you as bad news?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, again, shocked, appalled, devastated that the President of the United States would talk about any ambassador like that to a foreign head of state. And it was me. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, without upsetting you too much. I was shocked, appalled, devastated that someone would criticize me. I couldn't believe it. Now, keep in mind, this is the person we hired to represent our country's interests before a foreign government in one of the roughest regions in the world. Shocked, appalled. It's pretty embarrassing. In fact, it's kind of scary. Who's doing the screening over there at the State Department? How many other neurotics currently hold ambassador rank? Before anyone could ask that obvious and, in fact, vital question, Adam Schiff jumped in to rattle the witness still more.
As we sit here testifying, the president is attacking you on Twitter. And I'd like to give you a chance to respond. I'll read part of one of his tweets. Everywhere Marie Yovanovitch went turned bad. She started off in Somalia. How did that go? And now the president in real time is attacking you. What effect do you think that has on other witnesses' willingness to come forward and expose wrongdoing?
Well, it's very intimidating.
I want to let you know, Ambassador, that some of us here take witness intimidation very, very seriously.
It's very intimidating. It's witness intimidation. That's right, witness intimidation. That's apparently what it's called now when someone criticizes your job performance in a tweet. The gall! It's just terrifying. You know, in a sane country, someone might step in, maybe from the media even, to identify this for what it is, a grotesque joke. But Washington is no longer sane. So instead, MSNBC spent all day praising Yovanovitch as a holy victim of Trump's terror.
This is a witness who is there not just as a fact witness, as the witnesses on Tuesday, but as a victim.
If you really walk in her shoes, the country she's gone to, the loneliness.
Yovanovitch is such a soft speaker. It really demands the attention of all these lawmakers.
They're working against this straight-arrow woman. I shouldn't call her a woman because that's the president's language. This State Department hero.
The State Department, historically over the last 30 years, has not exactly been where you go to find all the powerful women in Washington. Usually it was a lot of men, a lot of white men. I'm so proud of her. And every woman in America who has fought in a male-dominated career should cheer for this woman today. I can get choked up when I think about what this woman has given.
Wow. Did you hear that, America? The State Department is, quote, a lot of men, a lot of white men. And that's the worst kind of men, according to accredited moron and former senator and now open racist Claire McCaskill. Ambassador Yovanovitch is nothing like those horrible white men MSNBC would like you to know. In fact, she lives at the very opposite end of the moral spectrum, among the sainted, somewhere between Gandhi and your average teenage Swedish climate activist, right in there, in that sweet spot of goodness. Yovanovitch is the sort of person, in fact, and they told us this on CNN, that it is, quote, a gift to know.
Remarkably poised, remarkably credible. Democrats may regret not putting her in the witness chair first.
This woman has ice in her veins. She's got a spine of steel. She laid out, I thought, in brilliant detail who she was. This was, I thought, remarkable testimony. She's incredibly charismatic.
Wow, was she a powerful witness about I'm an American dream. I was appointed by Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
I have done this for years. I'm trying to fight the bad guys. I covered the White House during the Bill Clinton presidency and the George W. Bush presidency. One of the gifts of the job is when you meet these people, when you travel the world.
You know, in this age of Trump, I am genuinely shocked by his behavior with regard to this Foreign Service officer of 3 decades. To disparage her, to demean her in sexist overtones, saying the woman over there. She made a mockery of his dismissals of the deep state. If this is the deep state, I bet a lot of Americans looked up and said, yeah, I'll take more of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Americans love the deep state. Can't get enough. Let's vest even more power in the hands of shadowy retired intel officials who lie for a living and whose agendas can never be fully known. If you spend enough time in Walmart or Denny's, you'll actually hear people say that out loud. Americans are sick of this democracy thing. And yet, at the same time, as CNN points out, Americans also despise sexism, which, if you want a precise definition, means any criticism of a woman who is currently serving the interests of the Democratic Party. So attacking, for example, Kellyanne Conway, that's not sexism, which is why they were able to do it yesterday on CNN. But criticizing Ambassador Yovanovitch for her work product, that is sexism. Got it? Okay. On to lesson number 2 that we learned today. What Donald Trump has done in Ukraine is bribery. Now, how exactly is it bribery? Don't ask dumb questions. It just is. It's bribery. Listen to the geniuses explain.
It seems to me that the President of the United States either committed extortion and bribery of a foreign official or attempted extortion and bribery of a foreign official.
The devastating testimony corroborated evidence of bribery.
She's right to use that word. It is bribery.
There are any number of potentially impeachable offenses, including bribery.
The American people will hear evidence of bribery, extortion, the president using his office for personal gain.
And this is a very strong case of bribery.
Ooh, looks like the primate's got a new word, bribery. There's a very strong case for bribery. Actually, there's no case for bribery. And that's why they only started using the word bribery this week after running the whole thing through the focus group and finding out that bribery was the scariest possible description of something they won't actually define. But whatever, the specifics don't matter. None of this matters. You know exactly what happened. Everyone knows. And they do too. Democrats decided on the punishment 3 years ago, impeachment, and they've been looking for the crime ever since.